Good evening, folks. Kent Hovind here and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland and Genesis Baptist Church in lovely Lenox, Alabama. It is February the 1st, 2025. Tonight, I know you skeptics and scoffers have been waiting to call in and make your stupid comments about evolution being true, but tonight I'm going to do an open letter to President Trump and to all the conservative, freedom-loving Americans. I would ask you if you watch this and copy it, post it on every channel you can think of, and send it to anybody you know that loves the Lord and might be able to step in. We got a serious question we want to talk about tonight. Okay, we'll talk in just a minute. So here we are. We're on a bunch of channels. We're on Facebook and let's see, I don't know what they're all listed right there. Okay, Rumble, TikTok, all kinds of stuff. Go to drdino.com, our website, and you can see everything right there. We are straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles, a little town of Lenox, Alabama, where God gets the glory for his creation. Get off I-65 at either exit and come right to us. There we are, 1 mile north of town, Dinosaur Adventureland in the old gravel pit. It's a blast, 140 acres, given to us on April 21st, 2016. We have a science center, 12,000 square feet. We've given hundreds of tours. We're building a Noah's Ark, 1/3 scale model. Hey, Dad, why you build this tall thing in the hole in the bottom of the Ark? It's a moon pool, son. It's probably going to have, Ark probably had 5 moon pools in it. As you go over waves, it lets this pressure come up inside the boat, and long ships don't crack that way. Anyway, hey, Dad, I got the first drogue stone carved. How long should I make the rope to tie it to the boat? They found drogue stones around Noah's Ark in Turkey, big, huge 9,000-pound rocks. Apparently, they were hanging over the side of the boat during the flood, and if it gets windy, it turns you at a right angle. Here's one of the actual drogue stones over there. One atheist I was debating said, Hovind, you're stupid. If he had rocks hanging around the boat, don't you know it would slow him down? I said, yeah, where was he going? There's no place to go. Anyway, come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. It's amazing. We feed, 3,000 meals a month here? Everything for free. We do it just on donation basis, okay? There's our science center from the sky, 12,000 square foot science center, all kinds of fun activities. Please come visit. We want everybody to see this place. We're an old-fashioned, independent, temperamental, fundamental, right-wing, radical, chicken-eating Baptist church. We believe the Bible is the infallible, inspired, inerrant word of the living God. There's the floor of our church, big cross made out of cedar, and pews around, everything donated, the wood for the floor, the pews and everything else. Okay, tonight, I'm going to redo what was taken down when they took down our YouTube channel and added a bunch to it this time about, are you a tax protester? This is my open letter to President Trump and all patriotic Americans who are concerned about the weaponized Justice Department going after political enemies. This is the stuff they do in communist countries. Sick the law on their political opponents. It happened to me back in 2001 up through 2006 when they finally arrested me, looking for something to get me on. So President Trump and all you listening to this, please, listen to what happened to me. And I know you're concerned about this weaponizing of the Justice Department. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done so far for our country in the first, just 10 days, 12 days of being in office. Thank you. We are here to support you, okay? Matthew wrote a comment to me a couple days ago. Hey, Mr. Hovind, thank you for your videos. People watch my videos on science and the Bible, creation seminar series, 18 hours for $50. I listened to your seminars, was taken aback by your wit and love for the Lord. I was then troubled to find out the government imprisoned you for not paying taxes. Well, let's see. We're going to send this in a little package to all these people, President Trump, Mrs. Trump, J.D. Vance, Alabama Representative Figures, Rick Scott, Ashley Moody, all these people we think that love the Lord and love our Constitution and want to get us back to right. Donald Trump is very familiar with how they weaponized the Justice Department against him. They came after him filing all kinds of stupid claims about him. Thank you for standing true, President Trump. We're here with you. Weaponizing the justice system. Ending the weaponization of the federal government. Yay, I agree. Executive order just 12 days ago. Thank you, President Trump. Stop the insanity. But listen, go back and undo the damage, because they did this to me back in 2006 when they put me in prison for 10 years for no crime whatsoever, okay? American people have witnessed the previous administration engage in a systematic campaign against its perceived political opponents. They perceive me as a political opponent because of my preaching on video number 5. DVD number 5 talks about the dangers of the evolution theory. By the way, any of you on that list, the representatives, congressmen, we will send you a free set of my videotapes. We want you to be informed of what happened, okay? Let's see. They're oriented toward inflicting political pain than pursuing actual justice. Well, that's the truth. Weaponizing the Justice Department. Weaponizing, that's what they've done. Trump's AG pick Bondi questioned about potential weaponization of Justice Department. Yeah, this is 20 days ago, all right? hearing before the subcommittee. This is back in 2023. This has been a long-going argument, long-standing argument about weaponizing the Justice Department. There's University of Minnesota did one back in 2020, okay? Is the government being weaponized against you? Yeah. They can put anybody in prison they want. Hitler knew that. Stalin knew that. Pol Pot knows that. Who's the Kim Jong-un guy with the funny haircut? He knows that, okay? Sure. Matthew, excellent video. You were accused of not paying taxes. So are you a tax protester? Atheists and God haters have run with this tax protester claim against me for 19 years now. They cannot win a debate defending their dumb evolution religion. I've done 381 debates, and I'll take any of them on any time, okay? Against me, and they're jealous of my popularity, so they look for something, anything, to make me look bad, to divert attention away from their own silly, stupid evolution religion. They believe they're related to a strawberry, and the whole universe came from a dot. December 16th, 1773, American patriots dumped 342 chests of black tea off British boats into the Boston Harbor. Thank you for what you did, guys, okay? You did the right thing. Talk about tax protesters. Our country started that way. For the record, I am not a tax protester. I never have been. I've said hundreds of times, if you owe a tax, you pay it. The question is, do you owe it? Forbes magazine did an article about me. Is Kent Hovind a tax protester? I don't forget the date on this. This would have been back in, I guess, 2005 or 6 when I went to prison. Accredited University invites tax protester, creationist, and felon Kent Hovind to speak. President Trump, this label they stuck on me has stuck now for 19 years. Would you please help peel it off, okay? Fundamentalist, evangelist, and tax protester from Wikipedia, okay? Kent Hovind, one of the ultimate grifters of 21st century. Kent Hovind's mugshot. Unfortunately, creation science is not a crime. Fortunately, tax evasion is. I did not evade any taxes. But this is what they do. It's ruined my reputation now for 19 years, okay? Kent Hovind tax evasion. We did a video series, Kent Hovind is Innocent, the Innocence video series. All of you that we sent the package to, if you would like, we will send you this for free. I want you and your legal team to be able to see all that was done. Not a lawyer, but a legal researcher spent 18 months researching what they did to me, made this video series. He said, Kent, you didn't break a single law. The government broke 100 laws to put you in prison. We'll send it to you for free. Please just call 855-BIG-DINO, extension 1. Say, I want that series, okay? Here we go. Kent Hovind, who is he on YouTube? Kent Hovind, a cult leader, a commune cult leader in Alabama. Tribute to Kent Hovind in the prison uniform. Stop using my tax dollars to teach evolution. What tax dollars, Kent? See, they claim I'm a tax protester, and I'm not, okay? Tax protester sues the government. Crazy lawsuit, okay? Conviction, Kent Hovind criminal case. Tax fraud. That was not what the case was about, okay? In this video, it's reported Kent Hovind has been battling the IRS for years to pay taxes because he believed, something like that, okay? From John, whoever this is, a tax expert. So Matthew, thank you for your question. I think it's way past time that I give a thorough answer. Since I moved to Lenox, Alabama, April 2016, some have spread rumors that I'm a tax protester and various other bad labels they stick on me without knowing the entire truth. These same rumors prompted your question. It's sad reality of living in a small community where some people have nothing better to do than spread rumors and make themselves look good. Paul said in Acts 24, they neither found me in the temple, I wasn't arguing with anybody, I wasn't causing any trouble, neither can they prove the things they accuse me of. This has been a problem with Christians for 2,000 years now. When he was come, the Jews came down from Jerusalem and laid many grievous complaints against Paul, which they could not prove. I guess nothing's changed in 2,000 years. While he answered for himself, neither against the law, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar have I offended anything at all. I will maintain my innocence. I did not break any laws. However, they did great damage to me, and President Trump, I'd like you and your team to see the simple steps to fix it, okay? Since moving to Lenox, we brought nearly $4 million of revenue into the area with all the building we've done. Brought in 32,000 visitors. We've had visitors from all 50 states and 78 foreign countries to see our little dinosaur adventure land. Seen thousands of lives changed, nearly 270 baptized. My answer to your question, Matthew, starts with this woman right here, Margaret Casey Rogers. She was the federal judge in my case in Pensacola, Florida, okay? Margaret Casey Rogers, born in Pensacola, was in the U.S. Army for a while, got a Bachelor of Arts degree from University of West Florida. She was nominated by President George Bush to a seat in the United States District Court in the Northern District of Florida. Okay. Complaint Board. Wow, what do they got to say? Margaret Casey Rogers review. Let's see. Judge Margaret Casey Rogers is a bizarre individual who's completely unethical and biased in her rulings. That's the one put me in prison for 10 years for no crime at all. She should be investigated, and when found guilty, she should be confined to prison. That's what the Complaints Board said. This woman is a completely unfit person to be a judge. She's biased against Christians and in favor of evildoers, as her record shows. Judge Rogers is paid by tax dollars and yet is a public enemy. Weaponization of the Justice Department. She's a general in the Army, okay? Beware of Judge Margaret Casey Rogers. To show how deranged she is, she claimed Pastor Hovind's supposed crimes were worse than a rapist. Judge Margaret Casey Rogers sentenced Pastor to many years in prison that doesn't even constitute a crime. And she said he's worse than a rapist. But she had this removed from the transcript. We paid $6,000, I think, to get the transcript so I could appeal the case. You got to do that within 12 months. She waited 16 months to send us the transcript and had removed. We got 8 signed sworn affidavits. People were in the courtroom that heard her say, Hovind, I'm giving you 10 years. Your crime is worse than rape. Yeah, tampered with the transcript. That's enough to get the case overturned. Anyway, 7 U.S. citizens heard her say, I thought it was 10. I think I've heard, anyway, had it removed. In 2006, a government SWAT team raided Kent Hovind's Creation Science Ministry. Kent and his wife, Jo, got arrested at gunpoint. Jo was dragged out of bed, not allowed to get dressed. This violent method of arresting a suspect is usually reserved for hardcore gang-related activity. It was disproportionate and totally over-the-top display of force. They were both thrown in prison. Jo got released from jail a few years ago, but as of February 2015, Kent maintains his innocence behind bars. They came with a SWAT team to a church, a parsonage. My wife, Jo, was so terrorized by this. We were virgins on our honeymoon, married 1973, had 3 children. When I got home from prison, she said, honey, I'm divorcing you. I'm still scared of the IRS. 42 years we were married, President Trump. They ruined a good marriage, ruined a good family. Over what? Margaret Casey Rogers. Ever wonder why Kent's in prison? She's quite an interesting character who has a reputation of issuing heavy-handed justice toward Christians. She received national attention in 2009 when she tried to send 2 Christian school teachers to prison for years. For what? For praying over their food. They were teachers in a public school. She said, there are going to be no prayers or religion in my town. Washington Times did an article, lawmakers back officials facing jail for prayer. School prayer charges stir protests. Students, teachers, and local pastors are protesting over a court case involving a Northern Florida school principal and athletic director who's facing criminal charges up to 6 months in jail over their offer of a mealtime prayer. There have been yard signs, T-shirts, mass student protests during graduation ceremonies on behalf of Pace High School principal Frank Lay. I talked to him today. He's going to bring his school up here, I think. Okay. And athletic director Robert Friedman. A district federal court in Pensacola for breaching the conditions of a lawsuit. The prosecution of Kent Hovind, led by Michelle Heldemeyer, the U.S. Attorney, and John David Roy Atchison, Assistant U.S. Attorney. Judge Richard Kreider committed suicide when he was caught and charged with the crime of purchasing illegal pornographic materials. The following year, Michelle Heldemeyer, now the U.S. Attorney, made national news when it was found out that her husband, Joseph Heldemeyer, was on the same pornographic mailing list as the judge. He was never prosecuted. Wonder why? Maybe because he's the husband of the U.S. Attorney. Michelle Heldemeyer is one of the 2 that came after me, okay? Let's see. In just a few days after Kent Hovind's trial, this assistant U.S. Attorney, John David Roy Atchison, was caught, arrested, and jailed for attempting to rape a 5-year-old. Keep that name in mind, John David Roy Atchison. He spent 5 years investigating me to find something to put me in prison for. When he led the SWAT team in there, he said, get every DVD number 5 you can find on my video series. The dangers of evolution. This evolution theory is the foundation philosophy behind communism, socialism, Marxism, Nazism. I cover that in great detail. I suggest you watch that. At Kent's trial, Margaret Casey Rogers, the presiding judge, said Kent Hovind's crime is worse than rape. Here's a video by world-renowned and respected Dr. Greg Dixon, Indianapolis Baptist Temple, attesting, he was there, that the entire courtroom heard the phrase worse than rape. Did the judge know the prosecutor was a rapist? To appeal the case, Kent paid $6,000 for a full court transcript. That is an unedited copy of every word spoken in the courtroom. To be valid, the appeal had to be filed within 12 months. The documents were held back for 16 months, making Kent miss the deadline for appealing his own case. 4 months after the deadline and too late to file an appeal, Kent finally received the transcript, and somebody had tampered with it, removing the judge's words, worse than rape. Yeah, I wonder why. 8 attendees of the court, I thought it was 8, have signed an affidavit stating they all heard Judge Rogers declare Kent's crime to be worse than rape. Whoever tampered with the court transcripts is not known, but that fact alone, that it was tampered with, is enough to overturn the case. And what hideous, monstrous crime deserves the title worse than rape? Structuring? Not murder. Not genocide. No, structuring. That's withdrawing any amount of your own money from your own bank account. I'm not making this up. If you withdraw money from your bank more than twice in the last 10,000 years, then you're guilty of structuring. He served 8 years in prison for a nonsense made-up crime. Turned out to be 9 years, okay? To recap, Assistant U.S. Attorney prosecuted Kent was a rapist. The judge allegedly said Kent Hovind was worse than a rapist. The prosecutor then was found guilty of rape, and the judge's statements about rape got removed from the court transcript. When they finally arrived, too late for appeal. That's only half of it. 2 juries were dismissed until the guilty verdict was made. First 2 juries refused to convict me. She called a 3rd jury. Kent's been moved around from prison 23 times in 8 years. But that was when they wrote this. Turned out they moved me 32 times, called diesel therapy. Some say they're trying to get him killed because you're more likely, the more you move a prisoner around, the more likely they are to share a cell with a violent inmate. Allegedly, IRS agent Scott Schneider seized $42,000 from the Creation Ministry safe. That is true. And then created a tax bill for the exact amount of money seized. He forced my wife to open the safe, took all the cash out, counted it out, and made out a tax bill for the exact amount to the penny, and seized the money. Said, you owe this as taxes. Scott Schneider, didn't you? Judge Rogers has a track record for handing out unjust, outrageous rulings against Bible believers. She issued a contempt order against 2 school teachers for praying before eating their food. Washington Times reported that 60 congressmen stepped in to show support for the teachers who were facing jail time, that the judge was completely out of line, ruling the First Amendment Constitution rights. She ought to have been dismissed as a judge at that point, but the case got settled out of court. And the judge is still in office, and I think up for promotion. The same judge who allegedly misdirected the jury on the first trial and seems to have delayed the paperwork to stop the appeal may have tampered with the court transcripts. She's now been selected to be the new judge in the upcoming trial. Yeah, we want to go back to court again. Guess who the judge is going to be? Her again, okay? The writ of coram nobis in Latin at the court at the time of judgment. We could file a writ of coram nobis. It costs about $6,000 or $7,000, which we don't have the money and not going to do, okay, to overturn the case. I devote my time to preaching and teaching God's word and giving tours of our amazing dinosaur adventureland. But some of you folks in Congress that are getting this package, would you please take this bull by the horns and fix it? I don't know how to do it. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. A coordinated effort between police force who authorized the SWAT team, IRS agents who invented tax bills, the prosecutor was a convicted felon, judge with a track record of issuing heavy-handed anti-Christian rulings, requires Congress to investigate. Because unsound, unsafe, rough justice will continue to infect the system unless people are made aware. While in prison, Kent highlighted the fact that judges are allowed to invest in the prison industrial complex. President Trump, I wrote a book on this called The Kennel. I did it under a false name because I didn't want to get in trouble writing about how judges, congressmen, lawyers are allowed to own stock in the prison system. So the longer they lock people up, the more money they make on their secondary investment. President Trump, please issue an executive order that nobody involved in law enforcement or making laws is allowed to also own stock in the prison system. Prison industries, who supplies the clothing, the food, the transportation, they own stock in that stuff. Stop that. That ought to be criminal. Please, do something about it, okay? While the prisons are full, companies that run those prisons will be in profit, and an invested judge will take a dividend on that profit. It's a conflict of interest for the judge to profit from handing out longer sentences. They ought to be banned from investing in prison-related stock. Internet petition with 19,000 signatures to free Kent Hovind was removed from the internet. We know who has the petition, but he won't release it. We tracked it down. We'll update on the website soon. A link to the found here. Number one mind-blowing thing that happened to Kent is that he now faces another 100 years in prison. For February 9th, 2025, the trial could be moved to March. What crime did he commit? He mailed a Liz Penzance to the title of the property. Litigation, still pending, don't sell that property. They seized the church property and were going to sell it. I simply filed a Liz Penzance. Wait a minute, this case ain't over yet. They threatened me with 100 more years in prison for sending a letter to the court. That's the justice system being weaponized, okay? The government appears to be selling off all his assets and the property is still in dispute. Liz Penzance informs any buyers there's a legal dispute over the issues. Once again, they made up a ridiculous crime of mail fraud to unjustly have him jailed for the rest of his life. The anti-Christian and biased Judge Margaret Rogers, who said creation evangelist Hovind's crime was worse than rape, is on notice. Detractors have called Kent Hovind a liar and claims Judge Rogers purposely altered court transcripts to hide her anti-Christian bias. 8 people signed an affidavit saying they were in the court, they heard her say that, okay? We have proof her claim worse than rape is true, and her rape accusation is not in the transcript. She should be impeached immediately. Kent Hovind should be a free man with a clean record. I'm a felon now for nothing. Can't have a gun. Yeah. IRS, DOJ, and public school system do not have a problem hiring mentally unstable sexual deviants who thirst for lust. Check out the story behind sexual deviants and pedophiles who imprison Kent Hovind. It seems that nepotist bureaucrats enjoy appointing judges to positions of power who can't distinguish the line between justice, rape, and law. Judge Rogers hands out 30 days to rapists and 10 years to preachers. All I do is teach people, you're not an animal. You're made in the image of God. That's why our public school system's falling apart. And by the way, all of you getting this letter, we've got video series. My video lies in the textbooks. There are 30 lies they're teaching our kids in every textbook to support the evolution theory. That should be taken out. I'm not trying to get evolution out of the schools. I'm not trying to get creation out or in. Just don't teach lies. If you remove all the lies, part 4 there's nothing left to support the dumb religion of evolution. Kent Hovind got 101 months to life in jail for something that is not even a crime. Average sentencing length for Kent Hovind got 101 months to life. Okay? Rape gets 96 months. Robbery, 83 months. Aggravated assault, 54 months. Burglary, 53 months. They gave me 101 months. Breaking. IRS finally admits and will enforce policing churches and imprisoning what they deem as political dissidents. That's what they thought I was, a political dissident. Pamela C. Marsh and Tiffany Eggers silenced the jury and the evidence. New prosecutor protected violent felon who was employed by the ATF, now prosecuting USA versus Kent Hovind case. Here's the timeline, and you can read all that for yourself. She called me the head of a criminal organization, a Baptist church, creation ministry in Pensacola. I traveled all over the world, went to 37 countries, preached 900 times a year on science and the Bible. Structuring, here's what they said. 58 charges in my thing. I forget, 50 or 4 of them or something were for structuring, also known as smurfing. That's where you break up a large financial transaction into smaller transactions to avoid scrutiny by regulators and law enforcement. See, the smaller transactions in an amount below the statutory limit that normally does not require financial institution. Congress passed a law that said if you take out more than $10,000, the bank has to fill out a form. I don't care what forms they fill out, okay? So then the drug dealers would go take out $9,500 in the morning and $9,500 in the afternoon. So Congress passed another law that said if you take out more than $10,000 in one day, but you break it up into 2 transactions, you have structured your transactions to evade the reporting requirement. We never did that either. These were drug laws. I've never taken any drugs in my life. Never tasted alcohol. I'm 72 years old. Federal structuring laws are smurfing ridiculous. Bank Secrecy Act requires banks to report any deposits, withdrawals, or transfers over $10,000. Our trustees of our ministry at the time said, Kent, we don't want to raise any problems with anybody. Don't ever take out more than $10,000. 2 times we had to, and the bank filled out their form. We had a lot of college students working for us. My wife would go withdraw $9,500 once every 2 weeks. Not 2 in one day. 1 withdrawal, our own church money to pay our own church bills once. 2 weeks later, do it again. What do we mean by structuring? A person deliberately splits a large financial transaction into smaller amounts. We never did that. It was one withdrawal. We never had a large transaction to split up. We were withdrawing lawfully earned ministry funds once every 2 weeks to pay legitimate ministry expenses. There was no structuring. Jury saw that twice and refused to indict. Or refused to convict. I've had to call a third jury. I've had several lawyers and paralegals examine my case to see if I broke any laws. If I did, I would quickly admit it. My charges fall into 3 categories. Here's a summary of what they found against me. First 12 counts: failing to withhold taxes from workers, and also withholding from the workers and failing to pay it over. Which is it? Why didn't I think my lawyer was on the take in this too, okay? Alan Ritchie out in Washington, okay? They accused both. They accused me of failing to withhold and withholding and failed to pay. Those 12 counts should have been thrown out just on that. It's stupid. If you did not apply to the IRS for their permission to be a withholding agent, you had no authority to do so. I was a pastor of a church. I wasn't authorized to do that for the IRS. Furthermore, withholding is mandatory only on foreigners, per 26 U.S.C. 1441, etc. I didn't have any foreigners working there. That's first 12 counts. That's what I went to prison for, okay? Next 45 counts were so-called structuring, which, per the unoverturned rulings of the federal appeals cases in Renus, Asloan, whatever, there is no such thing as structuring, because the so-called mandatory reporting form was never properly promulgated by the IRS in the early 70s. To the congressional act called the Paperwork Reduction Act. There wasn't even a law to break on structuring. So how could I break it 45 times? There's no criminal liability attached to withdrawing or depositing less than $10,000 in any transaction. Banks today believe it's mandatory, when in fact it's voluntary. It's mass delusion, still going on today. There's only one count: interfering with an officer. That was my 58th count. According to the regulations of the statute they charged me with, Kent was falsely accused of interfering with a tobacco inspection officer who appeared at his tobacco manufacturing plant, tobacco warehouse, tobacco shipping company, or tobacco retailer store, and somehow blocked their way or refused to show them his tobacco inventory logs. Mr. President, I smoked 2 cigarettes when I was 12 years old. I haven't touched one since. We're not involved in any tobacco production or selling or anything else. Used a tobacco law to put me in prison. Would you please investigate this case and overturn it? Fix it. Structuring and smurfing examples. Let's say someone has $90,000 in cash. They want to avoid reporting requirements, so they split it up into 10 transactions of $9,000. Okay. They say that's illegal. Well, the law was never promulgated. It was never really put into, it's not really law, okay? Our ministry legal counsel advised us to keep withdrawals under $10,000 to not make them think we're doing anything illegal. I've never taken drugs or tasted alcohol. We had dozens of college students helping us when they're off hours, and we paid them cash, and they did their own reporting and filed their own taxes. There never was a crime. John David Roy Atchison, the U.S. attorney that came after me, in Florida's Northern District, was arrested September 16th, 2007. This after they put me in prison, at the Detroit Metropolitan Airport in an internet sex sting organized by the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. He had flown to Michigan with the intent of having sex with a 5-year-old girl. Atchison was also a volunteer coach for girls' softball and basketball teams in Gulf Breeze, Florida, next to Pensacola. John David Roy Atchison, assistant U.S. attorney, gained notoriety. He was arrested for suspicion of soliciting sex from a 5-year-old. Born in 54, I was born in 53. Got a bachelor's degree at the University of Florida. Let's see. Since the 80s, he's working at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Pensacola, working on tax and financial crime cases. Married and had 3 children. See, they chose the person, and then they started looking for the crime. This is backwards to the way the law is supposed to work. They wanted to find he spent 5 years trying to find something against me, and he settled on those 3 stupid charges. In 2007, he was arrested at the airport. Let's see. Enticement of a minor to engage in sexual activity using the internet. These are the charges he was charged with. In his possession when he got off the airplane was a jar of petroleum jelly, a doll, and a pair of earrings. He tried to kill himself hanging in a jail cell, September. He was removed, but later he did kill himself in jail. You can Google it, John David Roy Atchison. What was that? October 5th, 15 days later, he hung himself in his own prison cell. Town is shaken after prosecutors arrest in child sting. Children practiced football this week at Shoreline Park in Gulf Breeze, Florida, where John David Roy Atchison coached girls softball. The guy was a pervert. Atchison bought a Dora the Explorer doll, hoop earrings, and petroleum jelly with him from Florida, said the report. According to the records, Atchison initiated an online chat with an undercover agent officer posing as a mother, interested in having her daughter, offering her daughter for sex. In several conversations, he said he wanted to have oral, vaginal, and anal sex with the woman's fictitious daughter. He said, I'm always gentle and loving, not to worry, no damage ever, no rough stuff. At one point, he said, according to the affidavit, I've done it plenty, he said. And he comes after me for nothing. So Matthew, to answer your question, I'm not a tax protester. I've been a pretty bold preacher of my gospel in 50 years, and my DVD number 5 of my series exposes the truth about the corrupt activity in our government, and that's the DVD the SWAT team was instructed to seize. I did not break any structuring laws. The pedophile U.S. attorney spent 5 years trying to find something to imprison me. Agent Scott Schneider, who works for the private company IRS, and thank you, Mr. Trump, for considering shutting them down. It's not part of the government, it's a private company. Shut them down. They're corrupt. Agent Scott Schneider forced my wife to open the safe, found $42,000 some dollars of legitimate ministry money. And he made up a tax bill for the exact amount to the penny and seized the cash. Then he got the judge to grant permission to seize all the ministry properties in Pensacola. 29 Cummings Road, 100 Cummings Road, 5800 North Palafox. We were buying up properties around us to build the Dinosaur Adventureland. They seized all that. So somebody gave us 140 acres here in Lenox, and we moved up here. And then he sold this property back to my son for $450,000. My son used my mailing list, hey, raise money, help Dad get the property back, and they did. All of my supporters got the money back. So the IRS seized nearly $500,000, plus destroyed my wife and destroyed our family and destroyed my reputation. From prison, I tried to sue Agent Snyder for his violations of law, but the weaponized Justice Department protected him. They dropped the case. Figured out some anti-tax. Just shut the whole thing down, President Trump, please. I had a judge that hates Christians who dismissed 2 juries who would not convict me and convened a 3rd jury who finally did. I was given a ridiculous 10-year sentence for no crime at all, and I served it all. One guy did a documentary about me, unmasking Kent Hovind. You ought to get that. And by the way, any of you that I'm sending this letter to, we will send it to you if you want. If you're going to sit it on your shelf, I don't want to waste it costs us money to produce it. If you're going to watch it, it'll help you see all the laws and know what exactly to go after. Kent Hovind is Innocent series. Matthew, I've maintained my innocence for 19 years now, and I will continue till I die. Then God will expose the case. Lots of the Bible was written from prison by innocent men convicted by corrupt politicians. That's why I'm appealing to you, President Trump. All you kind of congressmen that are getting this, please, I can't do anything. Would you just fix it? You've got the power to right this wrong. You should investigate it and fix it. History is full of stories like mine. Innocent people suffer, usually over greed by those in positions of power. Lots of Bible was written from prison. Innocent men convicted by corrupt politicians. Full of stories. As far as I know, my heart's right with God. I'm busy trying to please him and spread his word worldwide. You are welcome to join me or get out of the way. The Jews saw the multitudes listening to Paul preach, and they got jealous, got envious. Oh, wish we had a crowd following us. So they raised persecution against Paul and Barnabas. And they kicked him out of their town. They brought him to the judgment seat. So you can read the book of Acts. It happens all the time through the Bible. Innocent people being persecuted, prosecuted, even killed for what? Nothing, out of jealousy. Acts 25. Paul answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jews, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar have I offended anything at all. Go, Paul. Neither did Kent Hovind break any laws, and you morons calling me a tax protester are stupid. Okay? It's real stupid. Shut up. Paul said, are you willing to go to Jerusalem and appear before me? He said, I appeal to Caesar. I want to go to Supreme Court in the Roman Empire. Okay? I've done nothing wrong, as thou knowest. Matthew 25. The chief priests, elders, and all the council sought false witness against Jesus. I think the Bible talks about false witness, doesn't it? In the 10 Commandments. When the morning came, the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. How are we going to find a crime on this man? They sought for witness against Jesus. As for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. Apparently, Apostle Paul, 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. They've always gone after godly people. This is standard. Okay, hate Christians 101. In Acts 28, Paul came to the church in Rome. He said, when they examined me, they wouldn't let me go. There was no cause of death in me. But the Jews spoke against it. Don't let him go. I constrained to appeal unto Caesar. So he asked the people in Rome, he said, what do you know about my case? They said, all we know is everywhere it is spoken against. Google Kent Hovind and see how many internet spots there are against me and calling me a tax protester. Bible says we know all things work together for good to them that love God. And it's worked together for good. Somebody gave us 140 acres. Here I was trying to buy up part of Pensacola to build this camp. This is 50 times bigger. So I'm going to send this letter to all these people that I mentioned at the beginning. I'm writing to offer my help in any projects you have. I want to help you conservatives take back our conservative government, okay? If we can help. I want to ask your help to investigate and overturn my case. I will help you get the public school system straightened out if you want me to. I taught high school science and math 15 years, have a PhD in education from a Christian school. I know what the problem is. I know how to fix it. Call me. I'll be glad to help. Been a Baptist preacher 50 years, taught math and science 15 years, done 381 debates against atheists at universities. Most famous one is when I did Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. One smart aleck atheist said, where did God come from? My 2-minute answers got 900 million views. If you want to see why they don't like me, just Congressman, please watch that. President Trump, just watch that, 2 minutes, okay? Our ministry, now in Lenox, Alabama. We've produced over 30 million DVDs and started off videotapes in the old days. In 42 languages. We allow people to copy them and spread them all they want. Please do, okay? Pedophile U.S. Attorney Atchison and Christian-hating Judge Rogers had the name and spent 5 years looking for the crime. That's backwards to real justice. They raided our church ministry at 7 a.m. with a SWAT team, arrested me. I was preparing for a sermon and dragged my 5-foot-tall wife out of bed in her nightgown. Took her to the federal courthouse in her nightgown, refused to let her get dressed. Didn't you, Scott Schneider and John David Roy Atchison? I bet you enjoy that, don't you, you pedophile? While the SWAT team and the IRS were there, they searched the ministry to get every DVD number 5 they could find. Agent Scott M. Schneider made my wife open the safe, found $42,000 or more, and made up a tax bill on the spot for the exact amount and seized all the cash. Judge dismissed 2 juries, would not find us guilty, and called a 3rd jury. Anyway, you can read I'll send this letter to all of you. Here's what I want you to do. Have the proper authority look into my case, since there was no statute of limitations on fraud. And I want President Trump to de-weaponize the Justice Department. I want you to expose the evil done to me and our Christian ministry for everybody to see. I want you to impeach or jail the judge and others involved if need be. I want you to overturn the case and restore my integrity and reputation, or at the least, give me a presidential pardon. I want you to make them return the money they stole from our ministry. I want them to pay the damages they caused and leave me alone. I'm a 72-year-old Baptist preacher trying to serve the Lord now for 56 years. I love my Lord, I love my country, and my calling in life. If you're not the right one to help me fix this gross injustice, please tell me who is. If you need any help on your projects or goals to bring America back, call me. I'll give you my cell phone in the letter. I'm not going to give it out publicly here. You can call me, though, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. I'll pick up that same phone that way. Thank you so much. Okay. Help me out. I would like all of you, if you love justice, you love our country, you want to get it back, copy this video, post it on your channel. Post it everywhere you want. And then you write to these guys at the front here. Let's see. You write to them and say, let's see, 22. Write to any of these people. Let's see. Oh, tax protester. A letter going to, let's see, who am I sending this to? Mrs. Trump, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Alabama. You send it to your representative from your state or your congressman, okay? Or your senators. Charlie Kirk, Joe Rogan. I'd like to be on his show. Ben Shapiro, Elon Musk, John Fetterman. Anybody who loves the Lord and loves justice ought to get a copy of this. Thank you so much. See you Sunday morning.